The mayor of New York announced that he is providing free nurseries and kindergartens to all children living in New York City. There are 500,000 children under the age of 5 living in New York, and according to analyst reports, about 300,000 of them will use kindergartens if they are free. The annual cost of keeping a child in kindergarten in New York is about $24,000 per year. In other words, roughly speaking, it will cost between $10 and $12 billion for the 300,000 children who will attend them. Besides, it's clear that there aren't enough facilities at the moment. That is, many children were sent there because it cost something, but now it won't cost anything. Everyone will be brought there. Documented, undocumented, anyone. Analysts estimate that new structures must be built, additions made, and expansions undertaken. All in all, this will cost about $15 billion at least in the first year of Mamdani's administration. So the budget of New York City for the upcoming 26th fiscal year is $112.4 billion, and the expenses are already planned. So, without all his new additions, it's $118 billion. All of this was put together under the previous mayor, and now he's just adding some completely crazy extra expenses. For now, it's all pretty unclear. I'll discuss that. It's unclear where the funding will come from. So, $180 billion, $118 billion in expenses, $112.4 in revenue. That is, even without things like free kindergartens, free buses, free this and that, all of that is still ahead. We're short $6 billion for everything, so we need to find an additional $20 billion per year somewhere. That's not a small amount at all, I'd even say. Where do we get the money? Rob the rich even more, increase the taxation of companies based in New York. Well, those are all sorts of banks, large companies, real estate funds, and increasing taxes on real estate itself. Again, there are all sorts of calculations there. You can collect, as they say, $6, maybe $10 billion with all of this, yes, but you won't get everything you need. And what's already starting to happen, and will happen even more, is the outflow of wealthy people and corporations. It will intensify. Or you can reduce spending on the police, on firefighters, on schools, on social programs. Then you'll reduce it. There, some money pops up that was planned for something else, and you can transfer it here. But the problem is that without the police, there are more crimes. Without firefighters, there are more fires. You can't reduce funding for schools at all. Why? Because the teachers' union is, well, one of the nastiest in America. Maybe even the nastiest, right? It's the primary sponsor of the Democratic Party in the United States. And that's why if they stomp their foot over there, the entire Democratic Party stands at attention. So to speak, salutes. Well, they never had any honor, so they can't really salute. So they just stand at attention. With good relations with the states, New York State, New York City, which is not the same as New York State, and the federal government, and the feds are in Washington, that's Trump, right? So, with good relations, they can help each other out, the guys can help each other. Like, let's chip in, a little from you to me, a little from me to you, maybe have a drink together. Well, yeah, and then he gave another a billion at our expense, and here, that means there are holes in the state budget. And already, Madam Governor said that no, we won't give any money, and no, well, I don't know what's more important. That we won't give it or just no. And Trump definitely won't give anything. Trump is more likely to take away, deprive, or confiscate rather than give anything as a gift. To save Mamdani and its Marxist regime. By the way, Mamdani is calling illegal immigrants with children to New York to give them a warm welcome. Let them be fed and given everything for free, including kindergartens. Because he needs to fill the city with hungry mouths instead of those who are leaving. The ones leaving are the rich, and the ones arriving are the poor. But for this, he plans to rob the children of American citizens by taking as much of their parents' earnings as he and his Trotskyists, the May henchmen, want.
These are programs for absolutely every New Yorker. These programs will not ask about the immigration status of New Yorkers' children.
Come. We will steal so much from the idiot Americans, those foolish American goats, that there will be enough for all of you.
All these children are New Yorkers and must be enrolled in pre-K and 3-year-old classes, no matter their birthplace or origin. And we are also proud to be a sanctuary city. So what does it mean to be a sanctuary city? It means that we have certain rules that have existed in our city for many years. These rules fully bar immigration and customs enforcement agents from entering schools, hospitals, city facilities, or property of city contractors.
Divide and steal. Mom Don suggested that if the police from the Federal Immigration Department, not local police, got involved, if they enter the premises of some company that supplies, let's say, something to Gord, well, buttons, paper clips, I don't know, maybe paint, writes software for them, does something else. So is there a company on this company's premises? Let them allow the federal authorities in, right? How could they not? But if they do let the federal authorities in, then the city of New York will break the contract with that company and give it to another company that will resist the feds. Probably with weapons in hand, or rather, yes, with weapons in hand. How else could federal police enter the premises of a company working with the city of New York? It means you're out, and we're taking your contract away, and that's the end of it. But on the other hand, obstructing the entry of the federal police is a crime in the United States of America. In other words, if you don't commit a crime, meaning if you let them in, yes, will ruin you, your money or your life. Well, it's said softly, so interestingly, almost intelligently, nicely. You can still do that in a suit and tie or even on a bench. Just as there was a question about who and why brought Ilyich from Germany, now the question immediately arises, who and for what purpose brought Mamdani to America?
Believe in the importance of public good, but also believe in the importance of public superiority. The people of New York want to know that every dollar they pay in the form of taxes is returned to them in the form of quality of life and quality of services. It's unique and will prove it.
Are doing what they can, supervising the city. Not people, but they receive, well, this money through services, so to speak. Of course, some of it is stolen by the socialists, not just taken, but stolen. They're socialists, but steal like communists. Just so it's clear, yes, so completely different people are the ones receiving the services. These ones. The phrase said by Mamdani should be interpreted as, we want to take even more money from some New Yorkers than we do now so that the championship can happen. Part of this money will be spent on serving people who haven't earned it, and very often don't even have the right to be in our city, our state, or our country. There, it's the same story, meaning we're thieves. Yes, we're thieves. But when we steal, we give part of what we've stolen to those who will later be grateful to us. And in the next, I don't know, elections, re-elections, votes, whatever, they'll keep us in power. Well, you could say that would be much more honest, but the planted Cossack won't tell the truth.
On the very first day, we went to warn the bad landlord and support the tenants who live in conditions that no New Yorker should have to live in.
Let me explain. Rent control has been introduced in New York. Let's say 20 years ago, socialists passed a rule that rent for apartments could only be increased by 2% per year. Then, after some years, they changed it to 3% per year because inflation picked up. An apartment rent that was $1,000 20 years ago would bring in, well, first it increased by 2%, then by 3%. So I calculated $1,640 per month, meaning it was $1,000 20 years ago. And now, with the adjustment, you can't just demand $2,000 or ask for $3,000 if someone moves out. You have no moral right. You can't evict someone living there or raise the rent beyond what it was. He paid $1,000 before, now it's $1,640 a month, I hope that's clear. The house has been standing for 20 years. It needs to be painted, repaired, maintained. All of that costs money today. It costs to do all that now. On average in New York, it's $1,200 a month per apartment. Let's say we have a building with 30 apartments, so we've calculated it. And on average in New York, it's been figured out how much it costs. If before you paid $1,000 in rent, $200 went to maintenance. $600 was the mortgage again, that's on average, and it brought in $200 in your pocket each month. But today you get $1,640 from such an apartment where rent increases are prohibited. It's called rent control. You get $1,640, you still pay the same $600 for the mortgage, and you're left with $1,040. Oops, you need $1,200 for maintenance if you maintain it as required, according to the rules and regulations. True. You're not making any money from your own apartment, the one you bought and paid for. For that, so to speak, yes, but you also have to put in another $160 a month from your own pocket. And if you don't rent out the apartment, well, I won't rent it out because I'm losing money, right? The mortgage still remains at $600. Well, with the maintenance, you're deep in the red and it's terribly hard to sell. There are no buyers. Why are there no buyers? Because there aren't that many idiots for this crazy idea. And you're stuck and you stop taking care of the house, right? The walls are cracking, they're dirty, there's a dump in front of the house. The toilets don't work, but people don't move out. Despite all this, it's still a nightmare. Yes. Why? Where else can they get an apartment in Manhattan for such a low price? At least 3 to 4 times more expensive. That's what it costs now if there's no, so to speak, rent control. And yet they live in a dump. Mamdon wants the tenants to call city services, so city services will come, do the repairs, and then the cost of the repairs will be recovered from the owners through the courts. At the same time, the city doesn't say, we'll let you charge more rent so you can, so to speak, recoup your costs and maybe make at least something on this, or even just break even. No, no, no. They say something completely different. They say they don't care about your financial problems. If you can't maintain the building, they'll take it away from you. Through the courts, the city of New York ends up owning the buildings I didn't remove. But maintenance still costs money and the rent isn't enough because the rent is under control and you can't raise it. And the city, again, the city issues an order to take away, to steal, to rob. It doesn't matter if the person earning the money has it, so that they, and not the residents of these apartments, pay the rent for the apartments where completely different people live. In other words, some people live there, but someone else pays. It's like with education here, right? Someone took out, let's say, a loan of $100,000, $200,000, or $300,000, then the Biden administration forgave it for him. And what does forgave mean? It means that someone, banks, the budget, taxpayers, have to pay the money for the one who studied. Well, that's some kind of communist, fascist, socialist nonsense. One person lives, another pays. Socialists take some for themselves after seizing it because they helped distribute the money, they worked hard, and they need to be rewarded for that. And Danny, the savior of the nation in our terms, is a Nazi. Did you understand what this very nice mayor is saying? So, what plans are there to make New Yorkers' lives better? Remember, there are 2 ways to improve people's lives. The first is to produce more wealth so that everyone has more, or there's another way, to take from some and give it all to others. I think you've already figured out which method our domesticated communo-fascist Mamdani is proposing.
We discussed freezing rent for regulated tenants, offering universal childcare, and making America's slowest buses fast and free. That's why it's so important for us to push this agenda at this early stage. It's not just over $1 billion for universal childcare, but also restarting bus projects paused by the previous administration. So you don't have to go 5 miles an hour when you get on a bus in New York. You can actually get there, but it costs a lot of money. And now we see that Mayor Adams has left you with a deficit, an astonishing 12.6 billion. How are you going to deal with that? Honestly, like the Jackson 5 said, it's as easy as American Broadcasting Company. This is Adams' budget crisis. We are inheriting a level of gross financial mismanagement that leaves us with a debt we haven't seen since the financial crisis. What we will not allow, however, is for the failures of the previous administration to dull our own ambitions. And that's why we continue to believe that the way we respond to this challenge, frankly, is for the wealthiest residents of New York to pay a little more in income tax.
The previous 2 or maybe even 3 mayors of New York were Democrats, but they tried to balance between providing for the poor and not driving the rich out of the city. The rich are the ones who pay into the treasury, who pay. So is this guy's son spitting on that, or is he telling us that he doesn't care?
The most profitable corporations pay a bit more in corporate taxes, and then they change the relationship between the city and the state. Here in New York, we send about 54% of the state's tax revenue, but only get about 40% back. We want a relationship that better matches the city's role as the state's economic engine. And we know that working-class New Yorkers were not the cause of this crisis. We can't allow them to become its victims. Let them be the victims of this crisis.
I agree with him on this. The residents of New York didn't create this crisis. It was created by Democratic mayors and their corrupt gangs. Mayors and their corrupt gangs were doing this. And Mamdani's mantra is simple. Whatever we lack, we'll take from the rich. He says we'll take just a little and then there will be enough for everyone. But Vladimir Ilyich explained that if someone has 2 tables and someone else has none, that's not fair. The one who has 2 chairs, why does he need 2 chairs, right? 1 is enough for him. He sat at the table, so we'll take it away and give it to the poor. Mamdani says the same thing, just about something else, not chairs. We don't have a problem with chairs now. Everyone has 2 chairs, or even 4, and some people have 8. All socialists, fascists, communists, and other Democrat collectivists say the same thing. Then they take more and it's still not enough. They take even more and it's still not enough. And then suddenly the economy goes downhill like sliding down a slope. Who's to blame? Likely those who didn't want to be robbed and moved to another city, state, or country. I found a wallet with money on the street, counted it, and it wasn't enough.
But you'll need Albany, you'll need the state legislature and the governor to approve these tax increases.
Yes, this will be done closely with Albany leaders, including the governor, state assembly speaker, and state senate majority leader. And we've also made it absolutely clear that this problem was created before they came into leadership. We're talking about the previous city administration led by the mayor, and we're also talking about the many years, even decades, of efforts by then Governor Cuomo to drain the city's treasury.
But the governor, at least now, is making it clear that he doesn't want more taxes, more income taxes. So, will you be able to do what you're talking about, that is, even without a deficit? Will you be able to do everything you want if taxes don't go up?
We will keep standing our ground. In just over 20 days in power, we've proven that what was called impossible or unrealistic is already being done.
The fact is, he hasn't done anything yet. He's only signed a few orders for which he doesn't have the money yet. Or he just moved part of the budget from one department or project to another. Nothing he has done so far will lead to the production of more property. It's just moving things from one pocket to another, and for now, those are still the city's pockets. He took from one city pocket what had already been stolen, or was planned to be stolen long ago. But actually, this is what is called simulation of vigorous activity, which means simulation of vigorous activity. Someone probably thinks that this is real action, and he also created a commission to receive complaints from residents against whom the homeowners. So he will try to take people's property to satisfy his voters' demands for change. Oh, sorry, he did one very important thing. He ordered 1,200 toilets to be installed in Manhattan in the future. Of course, right now, $4 million have been allocated for the city budget, which is over $100 billion. That's nothing. So what exactly are these $4 million allocated for? It's for building, as stated, 20 to 30 modular toilets. Not 1,200, but 20 to 30. So there's a difference, right? If we were to build 1,200 toilets in Manhattan, well, it's clear why, and we would allocate money for that. But they allocated $4 million to build just 20 to 30, as they say, which is not much, and I'm not sure about that either. I'll explain soon why I'm not sure about that. For now, let's move on. According to the order, a tender is announced. A competition has already been announced for who will build these toilets, and the competition will start in 100 days in 3 months. But why wait so long? And when the toilets, so to speak, will actually be installed, no one can say. We're talking about 20, maybe even 30 toilets, but when they'll be ready, no one knows either. But a victory for Manhattan over the toiletless city has already been declared because no one cared about where the city's residents and tourists pee and poop, but he did. And so fanfares are already sounding across the country because of this. By the way, the authorities in New York are corrupt and terrible. Yes, they were building a toilet for an average of $1 million, but Mamdania promises to build it for $5 million, for $4 million he promises to build 2030 there. Well, let's say 20. Yes, so it turns out to be, I don't know, about $20,000 each. Don't you think that number is a bit strange? Honestly, I don't know. I've never built toilets, never ordered them. That's what I would say for now. And the very first thing the new mayor did was allocate money for urinals. And now he can be called Mamdani the urinal or Mamdani the king of toilets. Well, basically, Sralnikov is the king, but they will be without walls. With walls, it costs $1 million, and without walls, 200,000 without walls. And I think these will be wonderful model toilets in the center of Manhattan, which everyone will call, oh, these are Mamdani's toilets.
You said during the campaign that many major financial figures in New York claimed they would leave the city, predicting that large corporations would leave the city if you were elected. They don't appear to have acted on those threats yet. But is there any concern that if the measures you're talking about, especially tax increases, are implemented, you might lose those wealthy corporations?
We want them to stay in this city. We want this to be a city where we don't choose who gets to live here, but create a place for everyone. Recently, I spoke with a New York resident who identified as a millionaire. She asked if I wanted to raise taxes. I said yes, and she replied, but I can leave. I said, it's only 2% on income of $1 million or more. She says, what's that? I say about $20,000. She says, oh, that's not that much for me.
Again, lying, or once more, what a problem. Definitely lying. But it's unclear if he's lying again once more or, as always, lying. If this woman is as rich as he said, she absolutely knows. She knows exactly how much he wants to take from her. Additionally, she knows exactly how much she's paying. How do I know this? Why am I so sure? She has accountants and she has lawyers. So Mandry made up a dumb billionaire woman. He made it up 100%. By the way, if we're talking about $20,000 with a billionaire, how much money would he have to collect from them to cover, let's say, the $20 billion he's short each year? I'll answer you. I divided one by the other so you wouldn't have to. He needs 1 million billionaires, and it's easy. Each billionaire gives $20,000, and if there are 1 million, then we've got it. So to cover the annual deficit, right? Something doesn't add up. So in Mandry's math, he's either a liar or he thinks that 2% means 2 times. Like that nouveau riche guy who thought that by doubling the price of a product, he was changing its value by 2%. But Mandry isn't a Russian joke, he's American reality. Well, he's like an experiment of Marx, Stalin, Mao, Ceausescu, Pol Pot, and Mandry. They've already tried it, I don't know, maybe 100 times, and not once. So far, not once has it worked. So what do you think? What are the chances that this time, right here, it will work out like it did there? So I think it was Einstein who said it, not Epstein. Definitely, yes, Einstein. I think, after all, if you do the same thing but expect different results, then who are you? Who are you? I have an answer. You, Mom. And also, I think he considers us idiots, and maybe he's right. Goodbye until our next wonderful meeting.